Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pari Rajakacharya Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad Dasi Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pari Rajakacharya Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Srila Sachinandana Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jaya Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Gangamai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Haranam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Pranath Raj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. ISKCON Bhartma Guru Vrinda Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. Gora Pramanande, Haribo. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayam Niridayat Nasta Preshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by the rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. In loving service unto the personality of Godhead, whose praise for transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Okay, welcome everybody. Today is the first, of Vishvam Nabhyavartagyabhiraya Purarechaka Sambhigna Valivalgudalotaram Pratisankramayad Vishvam Nabhyavartagyabhiraya Purarichaka Sambhigna Bali Valgudalodaram Pratisankramaya Vishvam Nabhyavarta Kapiraya. Okay, please chant.
Murare Chaka Samvigna
Rare Chaka Sambhigna
Bali Valgudalodaram
Bali Valgudalodaram
Pati Sankramaya Vishvam
Pratisankramaya Vishvam
Navayavarta
Nabhyavarta Kapiraya.
Murare Chaka Samvigna
Rare Chaka Sambhigna Bali Valgudalodaram Pratisankramaya Vishvam Nabhyavarta Kapiraya. Rare Chaka Sambhigna Bali Valgudalodaram Pratisankramaya Vishvam Nabhyavarta Kapiraya. Anyone else? Okay. Word for word. Pura, inhaling. Rechaka, exhaling. Sambhigna, agitated. Bali, the wrinkles on the abdomen. Valgu, beautiful. Dala, like the banyan leaf. Udaram, abdomen. Pratisankramayat, coiling down. Navel. Avarta, screwing. Gabhiraya, by deepness. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Lord's abdomen is beautiful due to 3 ripples in the flesh. Being so round, his abdomen resembles the leaf of a banyan tree. And when he exhales and inhales, the movements of the ripples appear very, very beautiful. The coils within the navel of the Lord are so deep that it appears that the entire universe sprouted out of it, and yet again wishes to go back. Please repeat. The Lord's abdomen is beautiful due to 3 ripples in the flesh. Being so round, his abdomen resembles the leaf of a banyan tree. And when he exhales and inhales, the movement of the ripples appear very, very beautiful. The coils within the navel of the Lord are so deep that it appears that the entire universe sprouted out of it. And yet again wishes to go back. Purport. The whole universe is born out of the lotus stem which is sprouted from the navel of the Lord. Lord Brahma sat on top of this lotus stem to create the whole universe. The navel of the Lord is so deep and coiling that it appears that the whole universe again wants to withdraw into the navel, being attracted by the Lord's beauty. The Lord's navel and the ripples on his belly always increase the beauty of his bodily features. The details of the bodily features of the Lord especially indicate the personality of Godhead. Impersonalists cannot appreciate the beautiful body of the Lord, which is described in these prayers by Lord Shiva. Although the impersonalists are always engaged in the worship of Lord Shiva, they are unable to understand the prayers offered by Lord Shiva to the bodily features of Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is known as Shiva Rinichi Nutam, Bhagavatam 11.5.33, where he is always worshipped by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva.
Om Jnanatamrandasya Janjana Shalakaya Chaksharamilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Darati Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatan Sahanagana Raghunatam Sataji Sahagana Raghunatam Tam Sajivam Savadetam Savadutam Parajana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakambhitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabano Jagapate Gopesha Gopeka Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavani Rishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, what a beautiful verse, right? We're talking about the beauty of Krishna. I mean, amazing. So this verse is talking about the beauty of the Supreme Lord Krishna, and he's so beautiful that the gopis, they were upset with Lord Brahma because he made them with eyes that blinked. And so they weren't able to see the Lord just for those, that millisecond while they're blinking. I have that verse that describes that here. This is from the 10th canto. When you go off to the forest during the day, a tiny fraction of a second becomes like a millennium for us because we cannot see you. And even when we can eagerly look upon your beautiful face, so lovely with its adornment of curly locks, our pleasure is hindered by our eyelids, which were fashioned by the foolish creator. It's so wonderful. So Krishna, we know it means all attractive. He beautifies even the gems that he's wearing. Usually, like when I put on gems, these are glass, but if they were gems, I would be wearing them because they're beautifying me. But with Krishna, it's the other way around. He's beautifying the gems that he wears. I mean, it's wonderful. So I found this really wonderful passage from Nectar of Devotion. It's it probably is my favorite book that I've read. There's just so much nectar in it. Of course, it's what's called Nectar of Devotion. And I just love this, so I'm going to read this. There is the following statement by one gopi describing Krishna's attractive feature during this age. My dear friend, just see how all of a sudden in the sky of Krishna there is a powerful rising sun, and how this rising sun is minimizing the rays of our chastity moon. Our attraction for Krishna is so intense that it is drying up the lotus flower of our discrimination. And we are losing our senses in deciding whether we shall continue as chaste women or be victimized by the beauty of Krishna. My dear friend, I think that we have lost all hope of life. I love that, be victimized by the beauty of Krishna. So it goes on, a little explanation. In the Kaishora age, beginning from the 11th year and continuing up to the end of the 15th year, Krishna's arms, legs, and thighs became marked with 3 divisional lines. At that time, Krishna's chest challenged the hill of the Marakata jewel. His arms challenged the pillars of the Indranila jewel. The 3 lines of his waist challenged the waves of the river Yamuna, and his thighs challenged beautiful bananas. One gopi said, with all these exquisite features of his body, Krishna is too extraordinarily beautiful. And therefore, I'm always thinking of him to protect me because he is the killer of all demons. The idea expressed in this statement is that the gopis were comparing their attraction to Krishna to an attack by demons. And to counteract their attraction for the beauty of Krishna, they are also turning to Krishna hopefully because he's the killer of all kinds of demons. In other words, they were perplexed because on one hand, they were attracted by the beauty of Krishna, and on the other hand, they needed Krishna to drive away the demon of such attraction. And I just love that. It just made me kind of chuckle. So they're comparing his beauty to an attack by demons, but at the same time, needing to take shelter of him because he's the slayer of all demons. So within the sickness is also the cure, right? You know.
Where is that?
This is in Nectar of Devotion, chapter 26, I believe. Yeah. Isn't that beautiful though? Oh, yeah, I loved it. Oh, and then I have one more verse talking about the attractiveness of Krishna. This is from the 3rd canto. All the demigods from the upper and lower and middle universal planetary systems assembled at the altar of the Rajasuya sacrifice performed by Maharaj Yudhisthira. After seeing the beautiful bodily features of Lord Krishna, they all contemplated that he was the ultimate dexterous creation of Brahma, the creator of human beings. And this is the purport to that verse. There was nothing comparable to the bodily features of Lord Krishna when he was present in this world. The most beautiful object in the material world may be compared to the blue lotus flower or the full moon in the sky. But even the lotus flower and the moon were defeated by the beauty of the bodily features of Lord Krishna. And this was certified by the demigods, the most beautiful living creatures in the universe. The demigods thought that Lord Krishna, like themselves, was also created by Lord Brahma. But in fact, Brahma was created by Lord Krishna. It was not within the power of Brahma to create the transcendental beauty of the Supreme Lord. No one is the creator of Krishna. Rather, he is the creator of everyone. As he says in Bhagavad Gita, Aham sarvasa prabhavo mataha sarvam pravartate. Okay, so there's just, Krishna is so beautiful, he couldn't even have been created by Lord Brahma. So I like to sometimes think about, like, okay, who's the most attractive person that I know, like, you know, and then I try to think, well, Krishna has all those qualities, and then like far more, you know. And so, I mean, think of your, you know, the most attractive person, you know, whether it be some famous actor or some really, really wonderful Swami or whatever is most attractive to you. Just know that Krishna has all those qualities and so many more. So I like to think about that a lot. So he's so attractive that even the demons can't stop thinking of him, right? Which I think is kind of funny. You know, think about like stories like the story with Putana, right? She's so focused on him because, you know, he killed her siblings. And so she's just thinking of him all the time. And then she goes to kill him, but still she's just thinking of him. Same with Hiranyaksha. He's sort of obsessed, and Hiranyakashipu also obsessed, right? He's obsessed. He's just like thinking like, oh, who is this Krishna? Who is this Lord that my son's getting his power from, right? So I really like this little verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita about Shishupal, who's like kind of the most glaring example for me. You know, he's just so obsessed because Krishna was able to get the girl, right? He got the girl that Shishupal wanted, and Shishupal became just obsessed with thinking of him, although in a negative way. So this is from Adi Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Although Shishupal was always envious of Krishna, he frequently uttered the name of Krishna and always thought of the beautiful features of Krishna. Thus, by constantly thinking and chanting of Krishna, even unfavorably, he was cleansed of the contamination of his sinful activities. And then we know what happened to Shishupal, right? Like he was insulting Krishna so many times, and Krishna had made an agreement with his mother that, oh, I'll overlook it. I think it was like 100 times. And then as soon as he insulted him again, Krishna sent out his Sudarshan chakra, cut his head off. But then Shishupal actually was liberated then and merged into the body of Krishna. So now I don't recommend thinking of Krishna all the time in those mean ways, because that's not going to get us to be able to have, you know, these kind of beautiful, loving exchanges with him. But if we can think of Krishna all the time, then we also can be with Krishna. So think about, so even the demons think about Krishna, right? They're just obsessed. So think about in our times, Satanism, right? Okay, Satanism, the whole premise of satanic worship is based on the fact that God is supreme, right? If this was not, they may not know that, they may not realize that. Their whole premise of their worship is that it's an inversion of celebrations of God, right? You know, they take the cross and they turn it upside down, an inversion, right? The cross is supposed to represent faith in God, right? They do a black mass that's just inverse of certain rituals meant to glorify God. Now, why would they be doing the opposite of that, doing those opposite of those rituals intended to glorify God if God were not supreme, right? So, so even people, that proclaim that, oh no, I'm a Satanist, I'm worshiping Satan. God, who is that? No, the whole premise of your entire organization is built on the fact that God is supreme. So, whoops. So last week in Kirtan Ishwar's class, he mentioned the quote by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, which is, don't worry about seeing God, act in such a way that God wants to see you, right? So we should always try to remember that. If we act in such a way that God wants to see us, that Krishna wants to see us, then we will see him, right? But if we're so worried, like, oh no, I've got to get liberated, I've got to see God, well then we're not serving Krishna in the proper mindset. Right? So also, he told the story a little bit of the devotee that wanted to see Lord Chaitanya dance, and he wasn't allowed into the house, into the kirtan, but he was snuck in and he was hiding. And Lord Chaitanya, they're doing the kirtan and he's dancing and he's just like realizes like somebody's here. I'm not feeling the ecstasy I normally feel, like somebody is here that's not supposed to be here. And they told him, oh, it's just this nice brahmachari, he's so austere, he's just only drinking milk. And Lord Chaitanya throws him out and says, it's not austerity. It's not because of austerity, it's if you think that your milk drinking is gonna let us exchange loving pastimes, no. But that devotee, his attitude was one of, he just took the chastisement, and his attitude was what allowed him then to see Lord Krishna, right? Lord Chaitanya. So there was another devotee, Mukunda Datta, and I actually oftentimes would conflate these two stories, but Mukunda Datta, he also showed the proper attitude in how one can see the Lord. So Mukunda Datta, Lord Chaitanya, he was in Srivas Pandit's house, and he was giving darshan to the devotees. And each devotee saw him in a different incarnation according to their heart, right? Some devotees, they saw him as Lord Rama. Some devotees saw him as Vishnu, some as Lord Nrsimha. And Mukunda Datta, he was excluded from this darshan, and he was excluded because he had been listening to Mayavadi philosophy as if it was equal to bhakti. And this was offensive. And so he was outside. He knew he was being excluded for this reason. He was outside and he was going to commit suicide because of his offense. And the other devotees told Lord Chaitanya what was going on. And Lord Chaitanya still would not let him in. And Mukunda Datta asked if he would ever get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya in a future lifetime. When would he be able to see his form? And Lord Chaitanya said, in millions of lifetimes. And Mukunda Datta, he actually went into ecstasy because he was like, oh, I will get to see him. I will get to see him in just in millions of lifetimes. And that attitude And that devotion moved Lord Chaitanya so much that he let him in immediately, because he was just so moved by that attitude and devotion. And so what does that mean? It means we need to be eager to perform devotional service, right? We need to be eager to see the Lord. So eager that even millions of lifetimes is no deterrent, right? We're just going to keep going with that eagerness. And Krishna, he invests all his opulences in his name, in his holy name. And the devotees of Krishna, they become opulent themselves. So this is a beautiful quote about devotees' opulence being eternal. So one should engage in full devotional service. Then even though he has no desires, whatever desires he previously had can all be fulfilled simply by his worship of the Lord. The actual devotee does not desire even liberation. The Lord, however, fulfills the desire of the devotee by awarding him opulence that will never be destroyed. A karmi's opulence is destroyed, but the opulence of a devotee is never destroyed. A devotee becomes more and more opulent as he increases his devotional service to the Lord. Right? So we certainly should not be doing devotional service so we become opulent, but that will happen naturally as we increase our devotional service to the Lord. Suddenly we become more and more opulent. And sometimes, you see this with really great devotees, that are doing so much service to the Lord. There's just something about them, right, that is so attractive. They're just so effulgent and beautiful. And that's because of their devotion to the Lord. So there's 6 opulences that are present in the Lord in fullness. So who knows them, or at least one of them? Go ahead.
First with it, fame,
Okay.
beauty,
Okay.
strength,
Here, let's see if anybody else knows any beauty, strength. Anyone else?
Wisdom,
Wisdom, yeah.
austerity,
Austerity, yeah. And there's one more. Yeah, Jai. Okay. All right.
austerity and rest.
Well, oh, yeah. Well, renunciation, yeah.
pronunciation.
Yeah, and there's
You skipped well.
wealth, yeah. That's good because we're all poor. Yeah. All right. Jai. So yeah, strength, fame, beauty, wealth, wisdom, renunciation. Okay. So let's see. Okay, we have a little bit of time. So let's talk about strength first, and some of the stories that demonstrate that. So when you think of strength and you think of Krishna, I think the one story that really represents that for me is the Damodar Lila, right? When his mother's trying to tie him to the grinding mortar, and then she succeeds, and finally, after lots of trouble, he finally allows her to tie him to the grinding mortar, and he's a little baby, and he just starts crawling away with that big grinding mortar. And he gets stuck between the two twin Arjun trees, and he uproots them, right? Now, what little baby do you know would be able to uproot 2 trees? I mean, crawl around with a big grinding mortar, first of all, and then use that strength he has to uproot 2 twin trees. No, I don't know any babies that can do that. I don't know any adult men that can do that. So there's also so many other stories like Trinavarta, the whirlwind demon, right? He becomes so heavy that he can't take him anymore. Or Dana-Kashura, I love that one. That's the donkeys, right? The donkeys that are protecting the fruits in the one forest, and the boys, they want the fruits. The cowherd boys and Krishna, they want the fruits, and so Krishna and Balaram, they start picking up the big donkeys and swinging them around and throwing them in the trees, right? With Putana is this huge witch, right? I mean, not at first, but she was very beautiful, looked like a very beautiful lady. They let her in and let her nurse baby Krishna, and he sucked the life right out of her. And then she became this huge witch, right? Hiranyaksha, who had knocked the earth back into the causal ocean, right? And Krishna became what? Raha, yes, Raha Dev, and fought with Hiranyaksha. The lifting of Govardhan Hill, right? With his little pinky. Right? All of those demonstrate the strength of the Lord. Can anyone think of any other one? Did they like? Strength?
One of the demons that was in the bird, the Bifur takes the bird demon.
Oh yeah, Bakasura.
Yeah, he makes him into
Yeah.
the giant bird demon and
Yeah. Anyone else?
He kills the elephant in the tour.
Oh yeah, Kubalai P. Yeah. That is sad, I like elephants, but it also makes me laugh because he kills the elephant with its own tusk. What a bummer for that elephant. So embarrassing. Anyone else?
Lord Ram broke the bow of Lord Shiva.
What's that?
Lord Ramchandra, he broke the bow of Lord
Oh,
Shiva.
yes. Yeah. I was just listening to that one, actually.
And Lord Vishnu lifted the Mandira mountain into the ocean of milk, to churn the ocean of milk.
Yeah. Wonderful. So many stories of Krishna's strength, right? Okay.
And Parshuram killed 21 generations of Kshatriyas.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's a lot of strength. All right.
Remember that, Parmeshwar? Can't even imagine how many beings this is.
Yeah.
Talking mountains and skulls, buckets of blood.
I wish he would come back. Okay, so let's talk about fame, right? So fame. So everybody knows God, right? Even if they don't like him, everybody knows. Even if they want to pretend he's not there, everybody in the world knows of God, right? They might not know his name's Krishna. But Hare Krishna is now all over the world, right? The Hare Krishna mantra is all over the world. And people all over the world know the name of Krishna. And they might not know what it is that we're doing, but they might say, oh, there's those Hare Krishnas. We see them in television or movies. Usually we're being mocked, but still, they're hearing the name of the Lord, right? All over the world. So fame. Then we have beauty. So the story I've thought of when I was thinking of beauty was the story of the fruit seller. And this little Krishna, he had seen that first there was this lady, she was selling beautiful, juicy fruits, and had a nice basket full of these gorgeous, juicy fruits. And Krishna saw them, and he thought, wow, those are nice fruits. And he saw that his parents had, exchanged, given some exchange with the lady, and she gave him the fruits. They would sometimes exchange grain or rice or something. So he went and he got some handfuls of grain, and he went over to her, but he's just a little baby. And he's not very good at holding on to grain. And so all the grains are falling out of his little hands. And so when he got to her, he only had, just a few single grains in his little tiny hands. And the fruit seller, she was just so in awe of his beauty, his gloriousness, that she was just immediately endeared to him and just gave him all the fruits. And she took the little grains. And so then Krishna wandered away, and the lady looked in her basket, and there was so many jewels, right? So many jewels. And so this story illustrates beauty, his beauty, but also his wealth, right? And it also illustrates from the point of view of the fruit seller, just devotional service, right? She just loved Krishna so much. She wasn't getting, she didn't those 3 grains of rice are not going to fill her belly, right? But she gave him the fruits anyway because she wanted to please him. And then let's see, wealth. Another story of wealth is I liked that part in the Krishna book where it's talking about when Krishna with all his 10,000 wives, right? And each wife has their own palace, and he's in each one, and each palace is just beautiful and glorious, and he's being a full husband to each one of those 10,000 wives in those 10,000 houses. And I don't know even the billionaires, I don't think have 10,000 houses, right? And even if they did, they couldn't simultaneously be in each one at the same time with all 10,000 wives, right? And also, the wealth of Krishna, literally everything is his, right? Everything in this room, everything that you have, everything that I have, everything all over the world, everything in the universe belongs to Krishna. So, that the wealth, there's no compare. For wisdom, think of Bhagavad Gita, right? When he's talking to Arjuna and telling Arjuna, how a jiva is supposed to live their life and how what a jiva can do to get back home with Krishna, right? There's no greater wisdom than that. Renunciation, Krishna left the gopis, right? He's walking with the gopis. They're having a nice time, and the gopis start thinking, "Oh, wow, we must be so special that Krishna is choosing to be with us." All of a sudden, he's out of there, right? Because he's totally renounced, and that we don't see that behavior. So many people will do anything to stay with a young lady or young man of their choosing, right? They'll do anything to stay with that person, even put up with terrible things, right? Because they're attached, they're not renounced from that situation. And so I want each of you to think of, a story that demonstrates one of those opulences, and then just mention it or tell it. And we'll end there, but I want to end with a play on a quote from John F. Kennedy, which is, "Ask not what Krishna can do for you, but what you can do for Krishna," right? That's devotional service. So we know devotional service is service that is activities performed for the pleasure of Krishna with devotion that are not mixed with any desire for personal pleasure, right? And we know also from the first canto that the supreme occupation or dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service under the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. So remember that and ask what can I do for Krishna, not what Krishna can do for me. All right, so does anyone have any stories from Krishna Lila that it makes you think of one of these opulences? Okay.
Krishna's renunciation is not always seen so easily, but the most intense manifestation of Krishna's renunciation is Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya left his mother, Sachi Devi, and his wife, Lakshmi, or Vishnu Priya, and he cut his hair. It took many, many, many hours to cut his hair because the barber couldn't stop crying. Because every time they tried to cut his hair, he would start crying. So Lord Chaitanya didn't, he was so detached. He cut his hair, and then he was the most austere. He just simply sat and chanted. And he's the greatest renunciate of all.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else have a story? Yeah.
Well, not maybe a story directly, but because he is, as far as his beauty goes, he's known as the all-attractive.
to the point where he's even known as Hari, who can steal and take anything from his devotees. He can take everything and still be given praise. And so he's so attractive that he can basically take everything we have and we still praise him. So.
Jai. Yeah. Very nice. Anyone else? Yes, please.
When Lord Nrsingadev defeated or killed Hiranyakashipu, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So that's an exhibition of his fame
Yeah.
through all eternity, basically,
Right.
practically.
Everybody knows the Lord and his devotees. We say the most famous person on the planet right now is still Jesus Christ.
Right.
And because he's a great devotee of Krishna.
Yeah, there's always that debate. Who's the most famous person on the planet? Most people agree, yeah, Jesus Christ. And then who's the second most famous? Michael Jackson. Do you have a story? No? How about you, Garanga? Do you have a story? No story. All right.
I have a point to
Please.
comments that Krishna, Putana was not upset because Krishna killed her siblings because they were killed after Putana.
Oh, yes.
Putana was the first one killed, and then Bakasura, and then Agasura.
It was Bakasura that was upset, right?
And Agasura.
And Agasura, yeah.
Both.
That's right. The Agasura demon was the one that was upset because Putana and Bakasura were killed.
And also Shishupal hated Krishna from birth. He did hate Krishna. I mean, the fact that Krishna married Rukmini just added insult to injury, but the first words out of Shishupal's mouth were insults of Krishna. The very first thing he ever said was an insult to Krishna.
Wow.
He hated Krishna from the
That's
very
dedication.
beginning of his life. And yeah.
He was Brahmin last time? Well,
Yeah.
There's another verse.
All right. Well, I guess we'll end a little bit early. I thought people would have more stories to tell, but all right.
One more for Krishna's strength is Lord Chaitanya. When Lord Jagannath wouldn't move, they couldn't move the cart for Lord Jagannath, so Lord Chaitanya pushed the cart with his head and it moved.
Yeah. Wow. Jai. So that's strength.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice. All right. Well, end there. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.